Are you ready to take your passion to the next level? Well, introducing the MSC Network radio station, your gateway to an incredible opportunity. With over 300,000 streams and listeners in over 8 countries, we are not just any ordinary online radio station. We are a vibrant community of enthusiasts constantly seeking new talent to showcase to our global audience. And now, for the first time ever, we're offering you an exclusive offer to join the ranks of our talented on-air personality. Imagine the thrill of hosting your own show, sharing your unique sound and style with our vast and diverse audience. With your permanent slot on the MSC Network, you can showcase your talent to gain the exposure you've been dreaming of. Our listeners will have direct access to your show, connecting you with new fans, collaborators, and even industry professionals. So, how can you get started on this exciting journey? It's easy. Click the link below to secure your spot today. Take control of your dream and join the MSC Network, the platform that celebrates and amplifies your unique talent. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to learn more, and I'll see you on MSC Network. Are you ready to take your passion to the next level?
If you need the best entertainment in one place, music with smooth grooves, you have to tune in to MSC Network. And if you want the best place for the culture, the community, with good vibes, with good content for your soul, so tune in to the MSC Network, tune in to the MSC Network, the MSC Network, the MSC Network, tune in to the MSC Network, the MSC Network.
Yes. Happy Tuesday evening. Welcome to the Rich Live Show. I am your host with the most, and I'm backed up by the one and only beautiful
Lady L is with you. What's up, MSC Nation? I'm so happy to be on the show today.
Okay,
And I
happy.
love how your voice is sounding. Your voice is it's coming back. I like
I'm
it.
trying. I'm stuck in that baritone after having I think it's a change of the weather for me.
Yes.
But I feel good, and coming back from not having a voice, it came back really quick. So thanks.
Good.
So how you
I
doing?
think it is. You know what? I'm sneezing a little bit. Try not to sneeze. But I think it is the cold and flu season, allergy season that's coming in. So I can definitely identify with what you've been going through. But I am so excited and talking with you for another episode, another set of mindset mastery that we always be doing on Tuesday. So I'm so glad that we have our viewers, our global audience that is tuning in with us. And so I'm excited. But I'm also excited about the How to Find Your Purpose boot camp that we had last week. It was awesome. And hey, you were awesome in what you were sharing with everyone on how to find your purpose. It's such an important topic. If we could just talk for just a little bit about what we shared and just the awesome key points. I think it's important for us to talk about a little bit. So share with us a little bit about why it's important for us to do that, to do that type of boot camp for everyone who needs to know that. So,
Well, I think it's important. Thank you for that. And thanks for helping me out, you and Bridget. For those of you that may have
yes.
not seen or participated in the 2-day boot camp, it's Finding Your Purpose boot camp. It's a 2-day event, and it was very intense, but it was very, very, very beneficial. So in the realm of coaching, I realized that a lot of people don't know their purpose. So it's kind of hard to coach someone to a place when they don't really understand their own dynamics or their own power, their own strengths, their purpose. So I said, you know what, let's go back, determine who you are, why you're wired the way that you're wired, what makes you tick, what's your purpose. And then from that point, once you discover your purpose, then we can really expedite you getting along your journey a lot better. So thanks for that question, but That was a great one. And if you're interested, we'll be posting it soon, and you'll be able to embark on that as well. If you missed it, all is not lost. So yeah,
Absolutely not. It's not lost. Definitely just want to echo what Richard was saying. It was awesome experience for myself and for Bridget, for us, the beautiful Bridget Gibson, who was with us last week. It was an awesome experience. And, we're always talking about having a better quality of life. And that's just one thing that, helps us to have that better quality of life. So
I
yeah,
agree.
thank you so much, Coach Rich. You help so many people. Just coming here on Tuesdays and of course your show on Saturdays and the things that you share, those nuggets, you may hear us talk about those good gold nuggets or those nuggets, those motivational moments. It's just awesome because it's transformative. I myself am a recipient of it and your coaching and the things that you share with me. So it's so valuable and important. So I can go on and go on and talk about it if you let me. If you let me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, and thank you for participating. So, listen, our show, because we've been doing this for a minute now, and I think people are
Yeah.
loving the insight that you bring as well. So, I appreciate you for doing that. I want to stop for a minute and reset the room and welcome everybody to the Rich Laugh Show. Uh, Myself and Lady L. Today, we're going to be talking about variations of conversations. We just recapped on the Finding Your Purpose boot camp, which was very successful. So we're looking forward to doing some other things. We have something else coming up. Um, it's going to be
Yes, we do.
That's right. It's going to be November 2nd. So next week, we're going to be speaking about some very important information, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I just want to kind of begin the conversation so we can continue the conversation. I'm offering a master class, and that master class is going to be absolutely free. So you can tell your friends to get ready for it. If you guys miss Finding Your Purpose, this master class is really going to be based on a lot of us, which is self-sabotaging. And a lot of us do
Yeah.
that inadvertently. We self-sabotage, and we're going to dive into that conversation. It's going to be like the prelude to the master class that's going to be free on November 2nd. So, and it'll be really, really enlightening for you to embark on this conversation about self destruction, self, just self awareness, and everything that's going to be related to self and mastering yourself. Going into 2024, we're going to cover a lot of those different dynamics.
Yes, absolutely. When we first was talking about this topic, and again, this comes from both Rich and I, our motivation to help people, to help them to have a better quality of life. So when you think of the word self-sabotage, and you're thinking, how can that be? How can you be the one that's sabotaging yourself? And that was my first thought. I was thinking that can't be accurate. That can't be true. Because the natural inclination, that you're going to make sure that you protect yourself, you defend yourself. So how about this? Because I'm going to admit, Rich, I got a little bit offended. It's like self-sabotaging. No, hell, yeah, no. I think of it this way. Get out of your own way. How about that? Sounds a little bit better for those who are just can't wrap their brain around self-sabotaging. But if we could dig into that, and like you said, it's a prelude to the master class. So, what is self-sabotaging? Can you explain what that looks like for someone who, like myself, is like, what do you mean? It doesn't seem to make sense. So,
So self sabotaging, basically, it's a lot lighter than what it sounds. It doesn't mean that you're intentionally destroying or sabotaging your future or things that you have in front of you. Self sabotaging could be inadvertently. It could be unintentional. It could be a simple situation that you make very complex, meaning that the dynamics of your life, your culture, your upbringing, some things we learn, some behaviors we were taught, kind of leads to self-sabotaging behavior. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes we get so used to losing that when we're winning, we don't understand that it's a victory. Sometimes we have situations where we look at the worst in the situation and we don't look at, regardless of how bad it is, it's not you. And sometimes we're presented with things that we ask for, that we pray for, and that we desire. And because we're so used to not receiving or being awarded those things, or if we end up with them, we unintentionally destroy them because we don't believe that we're worthy or that this is actually real. So let's dive into that a little bit. But that's my definition, basically, being in a position where you don't feel value enough to receive something that may be good or great for you, so much so that you're used to dysfunction. So you bring the dysfunction into it to normalize it, and then you may run away the greatness that you receive because you're self-sabotaging and you're not used of having something that you deserve. So you posture yourself to feel uncomfortable because that's your norm. Hopefully I didn't confuse anyone.
I think you very well said. Um, I will be transparent. And like I said, I am not perfect, but I can be perfectly transparent. And this hits home for me. And it's okay because this is me walking in my purpose, which is to help someone else. When you've gone through experiencing pain and you make it through the other side of that pain, then you want to help somebody else. And it is a journey that we go on as far as our healing, and we reach milestones in that journey. So I must admit, this subject is just like hitting me. So, and that's okay. I will be there to be transparent to help anyone who can identify with what I'm feeling. And so, some of the questions I'm going to admit is just going to be questions that I have myself, experiences that I've had myself, and just being in that mindset, and not even realizing that you're in that mindset. You said something very profound when you said that it's used to the dysfunction, and it's just you're conditioned from childhood to adulthood. You're being conditioned in a way to accept that dysfunction. You think it's okay. And so it is not okay with the dysfunction, but you get used to it. That was very well said. Thank you for sharing that. There's another thing I wanted to share, and then I have a question for you to continue. Um, there was something that I think there's a phrase that I want to say. It's kind of like fighting ghosts. When you are hurt, and basically what you're sharing is trauma. People who have experienced trauma and they haven't dealt with it, and they continue to move forward with that trauma and not really unpacking it or allow themselves to get healing. And there's different levels and degrees of that trauma. And of course, we always encourage someone to get the help that they need to deal with it. But when you don't deal with it, the different levels of trauma and or the pain and the hurt that you've experienced, then you are actually walking forward wounded. And I call this the walking wounded. And when you're walking wounded, then you find yourself acting out where you're fighting ghosts. It is not that same person that is hurting you, but you are determined to make sure that you're never hurt again. So that is what is my definition on that. So, um, do you want to add to that, Richard?
Yeah, I thought that was a really, really good point that you made. Really, really good point that you made. So, any of us, if we're willing to be honest, we all at some point self-sabotage. And I'm going to be breaking it down a little bit more and more and more and more. What do I mean by that? So let's take a single woman, and let's take someone that's desiring a relationship or desiring a situation, and you're so used of not being on the up end of it, or not being in great relationships, and then you finally meet someone and it works out really well. There are no arguments, there's no abuse, There's nothing going wrong in this situation, and it's going for a lengthy period of time, and then you realize, wait a minute, we haven't had an argument, we haven't had a disagreement. It's too perfect, it's too good to be true. So then you start poking at it, because the fear is that you're going to start to unravel and feel real good about it, and you don't want to get comfortable, because I know what pain is, and I recognize discontent, I recognize discomfort. So let me get myself suited and booted and prepared to be uncomfortable in this situation before it happens. So when it doesn't happen, you begin to sabotage it to make sure that you're prepared for this thing that you're staging that may never occur. So unintentionally, the person on the other side, or the situation on the other side, you're devaluing that, because you're so used to not winning, or you're so used to things not coming out in your favor, that you normalize this dysfunction, and you may be pushing something away or someone away. Does that make sense to you?
It makes absolutely perfect sense. I am guilty. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. And so for those of you who are watching, we have a global audience. Thank you for tuning in. And please join us in the chat. And for those who are already in the chat, we have a wonderful, beautiful moderator, Ronnie, that will definitely greet you. And we want to hear from you. So if you're in the chat, or if you haven't yet join the chat, and just if you can identify with what we're talking about as far as self-sabotaging, and are you that one in that relationship who's like, this is too good to be true? I mean, like, he is just Prince Charming, but Prince Charming doesn't exist. Or if you can identify with that, please put one in the chat. If we're on your street, if this sounds similar, for the fellas, we're not leaving you out either. If you felt like, oh, she's too beautiful, what's wrong with her? If you can identify with that, and you feel like you were poking at it and sabotaging it inadvertently, please put a one in the chat. And we want to hear from you. But yes, you're onto something when you're talking about Coach Rich. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So I want to acknowledge everyone that's in the chat room. Maybe you can see it better than me. Veronica, of course, Silver Fox, Sheila G, Ronnie, and Music, and who else we have there? Mrs. Zora, and
Yes.
Veronica, Miss
Bridget.
Freeman, and of course, beautiful Bridget, and everybody else that's joining this conversation. Please put a one in the chat room, just like Lady L is getting you to tell on yourself. I have self-sabotage as well, and sometimes you normalize not being on the receiving end of something really great, because it has become common in a lot of our lives. And then when something great occurs, you're like, me? No, not me. Quit lying. No, for real. So we do that in our lives. We do that in our relationships. And sometimes we're so used to being on the downside of things. We're so used to losing. We're so used to it not working out on my behalf, that we create that subliminally. We create scenarios where it will feel normal, because, you ever got to a point where you receive something and you're looking around to see if this is real, or you're waiting for someone to say that was a mistake, or you're believing that you're not going to keep it, or you're believing that, so it's kind of like if somebody gives you something and you're like, you sure you want to give this to me? And then you run before they change their mind because you're so used to not receiving. You're so used to not being on the great end of gratefulness.
Yes.
Well, hopefully the conversation that we're going to have inside the master course, we kind of dive into how to eradicate that kind of behavior, because it's a learned behavior, right?
Yeah.
So we begin to learn how to condition ourselves to receive negative information. We've conditioned ourselves to fail and understand what that is. So much so that we've been conditioned to fail psychologically because of the surroundings sometimes, that we just stop attempting things because failure feels bad, right? So we start to normalize uh, not even trying. We start normalizing not even expecting the victory. We normalize not. Stop normalizing the NOT, the not. You know, at some point, life will break through for you and you'll begin to receive the things that you deserve. But you have to actually have the faith and believe that this is actually possible. But without that, sometimes we sabotage situations and opportunities. And I'll use this network, for example. There, there are people that I have invited to the network, and they'll say, "What is it that I have to do?" I hear things like, "What's the catch?" Yeah, no, it's too good to be true. No, no, thank you. I don't want to be involved. It just, no, something's up with this. You know what I'm saying? What is he expecting, especially from the women?
Yeah.
And we're very heavily inundated with women in the network in the organization. And being a production company, there's very few women that are typically in these roles. But for a male driven career, when you approach a woman to do something that's a little bit different than the norm, it's kind of like, okay, what do you want from me? What's behind it? What's hidden? It's too good to be true. No, thank you. I don't want to feel that pain. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to have to put you in your place. So I'm just rambling on this because there's so much I can do to unravel the self-sabotaging behavior where you put yourself in a position where you do not have to face what you believe may not be a great thing. So hopefully
Yeah.
after this master course that we have on the 2nd, I'll have you do an assessment. I love doing assessments because it'll tell you whether or not you are self-sabotaging yourself. And if you are, we give you methods on how to not do that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's awesome. And with this master course, there are some questions that are going to pop up, and we're kind of hitting on them tonight. And that is who, why, and how. Who is this for? And we basically talked about that. Male or females who are just going through this cycle of not accepting the possibilities of what can happen in their life, whether that's a career, whether it's in relationships. And then why? We're going to dig into that why, because I think that we're gonna get into that with the master course as to why, because there's a reason why we do that, and we touched on that tonight. And then the how of how we arrived to this place, and then how we help you to unravel it. There's a lot that is packed in that how. But if we could, if you don't mind, Coach Rich, let's talk about the why a little bit more, because I think some people are thinking, oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I deserve everything that guy's giving to me in that relationship. It's fine. I'm great. But then there are other areas in your life where you have been conditioned to not to believe. And I think of it as you're not dreaming. I think it's important for everyone to dream. It's vital, because we're not just here to simply just exist. And again, that kind of leans into what we're talking about with the purpose. We are here for a reason. And, if you believe in a higher power, definitely it is simply you have a purpose, and you are here for a reason. And it's not simply for you to just exist and coast and just sleepwalk in your life. So instead of sleepwalking in your life, you want to actually focus on why am I not taking advantages of those opportunities? And not just the advantages that society tells you should take advantage of. But what is your dream? What is that thing within you that you want to do, but you're not reaching for it anymore because life or situations told you not to? And then you get an opportunity to go for it. An opportunity is there and you don't go for it. So, Coach Rich, let's talk about the why a little bit to help some people who may not identify with the relationship part, but there's other areas. So what do you think about that?
It goes back. That's a good question. It goes back to the dynamics of understanding, like why, why not you, right? So good, bad, and different. When things happen to us, sometimes we want to know why, and the question is why not, or why not you? So when something bad happens, you want to know why me, right? But you should use that same energy towards when something great happened. Why not you? You know, is there somebody else you would recommend? So life will continue to happen to us regardless of what we choose to do. Life will continue to happen. So the why is always going to be there, but also you can counter that why with the why not. You know, and it's just all predicated, in my opinion, on the letdown. You know, sometimes they're low hanging fruit. There are opportunities that present themselves. There's situations that we can embark on. There's growth opportunities. There's relationship development growth. And there's so many things that we could take chances on. But the why tends to prevent us. The why is embedded with fear, right? Because the why tells us what could go wrong, why it can go wrong, how it can go wrong, right? And it tells you everything negatively to prevent you from moving forward towards that dream, that vision, or that goal. So this is where the self-sabotage is actually unfolding. So regardless of what age you are, life is going to continue to happen. But just where the negative things are laying, there are positive things just as powerful on the other side of the negative things. But we tend to be willing to embrace the negative things as opposed to the positive things because we're so used sometimes of dealing with negativity. This is our point, right? This is our staging area, right? This is the platform, right? We can deal with negative. We're so resilient as people with letdowns. We're so resilient as people with disappointment, heartache, and hardship. But the reason we're so resilient in those areas because we feel that this is what happens often. So we've normalized the letdown of life. And then when the come up is available, we rather turn our back on it because we feel like it will be the start of something, which is a false pretense of a great tomorrow, a greater situation. So even when you receive something good, you start thinking about this is going to be short-lived, right? Sometimes, let's take football, for example. I'm a big fan of Colorado and Deion Sanders and what he's doing at the university. They had a 40-something lead before halftime. They came out and they lost after a struggle. They came back out after halftime and they lost. Well, this is, in my opinion, self-sabotaging because the victory is yours. But do you really believe it belongs to you? So when they came back out, they played with lack of intentionality. That they could have went to 80 something points, but they stayed in the 40s. And I'm saying this is self-sabotaging behavior because if you're like Colorado, you're used to losing. You're used to losing. So now you are to a point where you can win. You're believing and you're starting to see there's a change and there's a whole new dynamic. Well, the only thing that could really beat you in some scenarios is you. And this happens a lot in sports where teams typically beat themselves by self-sabotaging. It's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of belief. It's not a lack of showmanship. Sometimes it's just a lack of owning the right to be on the side of victory or seeing it as an opportunity for victory. So the why, to me, is it's easier to go with the things that are being presented to prevent you from pain So anything that will prevent pain, we lean more towards being comfortable than the discomfort. So the why keeps us comfortable.
That is so true. And I'm also thinking about the single woman that you was talking about with the relationships. It is so easy for us to say, "Oh, I just have boundaries." And okay, I'll be the one to be out there to say that I have boundaries. But you know what? Someone had to tell me, yes, have healthy boundaries, but don't have barriers. And sometimes we can say, oh, I'm just guarding my heart, or I'm just guarding myself. And yes, you want to do self preservation. That is human of you to do that. But then you have to identify when it's gone too far and you are actually falling into that area of it being an actual barrier. And so if we could talk a little bit about that, Coach Rich, where it's like, no, 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 this is not a healthy boundary. This is a barrier where you're dominated by fear and where you feel like you are just, like you said, you're not going for it. You're not taking the opportunities. What do you say about that?
Well, what ask yourself, what could go right? What could go right? And typically, when we're presented with those barriers, those healthy barriers, um, we know the difference. We do. And subliminally, your in the core tells you what to do. Now you can override that, which we typically do. When there's a healthy barrier or something that we should cross, um, we have a choice. We can stay in safety mode because it's a guarantee that we don't have to change. We don't have to learn anything new. Not only that, we're less susceptible to pain because we're not going to have to deal with pain because we're not going to push through to the other side of the barrier. But then, this is going to be deep. Stay with me if you could. There are people in relationship situations and circumstances in their life that they feel are very healthy, but they're not necessarily healthy. You have normalized being on
Yeah.
the wrong side of the unhealthy barriers. So some of us have normalized um, ungratefulness in relationships, um, being undervalued, underappreciated, um, have learned to not be celebrated, right? People
Yeah.
say, I'd rather stay with the devil I know, right? Is always a wrong thing to do because the, that's self-sabotaging mindset. When you have normalized a relationship where you have put yourself in a situation where you tolerate less, you expect less, and because you got less, you have said that, okay, this is a norm for me, right?
Mhm.
So much more is out there and available to you, but self-sabotaging mindsets and behavior, what it does, it create a false sense of security. And when this is Domestic Violence Month, um, and a lot of victims would tell you that the apology sometimes keep them there,
Yeah.
right? If it's apathetic enough or sympathetic enough, right? Because you don't know what's out there. You don't know, and the mindset, you begin to corral around the idea that, hey, at least I know he won't do this. At least I know he won't do that. But he's going to escalate. That situation is going to escalate. But if you could just push through to a healthier barrier and understand that normalizing dysfunction in itself is not normal.
Mm.
We're resilient human beings, and we teach ourselves to be susceptible to things that are not normal. I'll give you a great example. It was not normal for human beings to walk around wearing a mask. It was not normal. But we normalized mask wearing so much that we began to put blings and things and names, and we became so creative in normalizing what was not normal, to a point where when we did not have to wear masks, a lot of us continued to wear them because we had normalized the dysfunction, because it is dysfunctional to walk around in society with a face mask. So what I'm saying is, this is a sign of accepting behavior that is very uncommon, but learning to live with that dysfunction. And to this day, people are walking around with masks. And I understand it's a safety thing, but I'm using it from the perspective in the context of how easy we get used to normalizing things that are not normal. So if you think about your relationships, if you think about your life, you think about your career, you think about where you are and why you are still where you are, because you have normalized where you are and you have learned to function in a hierarchy that you've created that you can live within. And it's just like those jobs. A lot of us, we do enough not to get fired, right? Right? And they give you enough not to quit.
Mhm. Yes, that's a lot right there. So you don't have to put this in the chat, but I want you to ask yourself some questions just to think about this because we want to help someone tonight. And that is, have you settled for something less than what you deserve? Have you normalized any pain just to keep from rocking the boat in relationships or in your life? Just think about that. Is there anything in your life that you have just gotten on autopilot with, getting over the pain and just sleepwalking through your life or sleepwalking through the relationship because you rather do that than rather to dig into it and to deal with it or take the risk of moving away from something. I'm a firm believer that there are opportunities that are given to us for us to take those opportunities to transition to where we can be. And sometimes it takes us being fearless and for just a moment to make a decision to do something different. I would just talk about myself for just a little bit, Rich, if you don't mind. And that is, before the pandemic hit, I was just in a job that was going nowhere and I was just not happy with it. And I wanted to quit, but I was afraid to quit. And then the pandemic hit, COVID came, and then it made what was already a toxic working environment even worse. And so I just quit. And I'm pretty sure you know some people, a lot of people who've done that. And I quit. But quitting for me was liberating because it was the mindset for me to realize there's something better for me. There has to be something better. This is not living. This is not going to work for me. And so it's just taking that step to find something different and find something better. So that is just, I wanted to share that with you. But there had to be a process and a cycle that you go through to help you to identify that this is not feeding me. This is actually causing me to shrink within and it's not helping me. So I wanted to ask you that question just to think about it. Like I said, this is a community here. This is MSC Nation. We want you to come together and to think about some things and just contemplate on that. And while you're contemplating on that, I want to talk to you, Coach Rich, and ask to help if we could help someone as far as someone who is dealing with the trauma. What would be some steps that you would give them? They're waking up, they're hearing what we're saying, and they're just like, hey, you know what? I think I'm self-sabotaging. So once they identify it, can we just help them a little bit, and then we'll continue this on with our masterclass? What would they need to do?
Well, I think that's a lot to unpack. But one of the things that you can do if you're self-sabotaging or you want to know if you're self-sabotaging is to evaluate how many times are you pivoting in circumstances and situations? How often are you pivoting? And the reason I say that is because, okay, do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat room if you've ever been in a room or you've ever been in a conversation where someone was not smarter than you or someone knew a lot less than you, but you never made them feel uncomfortable and you swallowed everything and you never said anything and you knew what they were saying wasn't well represented, for lack of better words. Put a 1 in the chat room if you've ever been in a position where someone gave you advice or someone was speaking and did not know what they were talking about and you kept it to yourself. Put a 1. And the reason why I say that, because self-sabotaging in that situation, and you're having a dialogue with someone and you are much brighter in that conversation, or you can lend more value to that conversation, but you choose to keep yourself down or turn yourself down in fear of making them feel inadequate or awkward. So what we do is we self-sabotage because we don't want to appear to be smarter than that person. So what happens is that we begin to sabotage who we are by turning ourselves down completely, which gives the false pretense that you are receiving good data from someone that's giving you bad data or not good information. This happens a lot in relationships. This happens a lot in companies. Leadership doesn't mean smarter than, right? Being a CEO doesn't mean that they're smarter than the people that work for them. They just took a different route and utilized resources and took more chances. But it doesn't mean that they're much smarter than you. All in actuality, the CEO is really smart because he does what I'm doing. I put smarter people around me, right? So if you've ever had to turn yourself down because you didn't want to make someone feel awkward, you didn't want to make someone feel less than. So that's self-sabotaging behavior because you're dimming your light so that others can continue to glow. That is self-sabotaging. Being into a relationship with someone that doesn't measure up, but you teach yourself how to exercise humility in that relationship. So you're turning yourself down to the value of what would be acceptable to that individual, right? So that will put you in a position to be self-sabotaging because you, once again, are dimming your light so that other people are not uncomfortable. And this is what's happening with Deion Sanders. He refused to turn his light down. He's not going to dim his rainbow glow so that people don't get hit by the light. I'm sorry. You have to level up. So those are just two good examples, in my opinion, of people that constantly self-sabotage. It comes in the most subtle way. And the same thing with relationships. Sometimes you meet someone and you look for everything wrong in the situation. You look for everything that's wrong with that person. You will find it. But what you're doing is you're not necessarily finding what's wrong. You're sabotaging what's right. So these are key indicators that you can start thinking about around you. Settling is the number one factor of self-sabotaging. Settling. I might as well. Oh, well, it is what it is. Okay. Might as well. I ain't got nothing else to do. These are clues that you're self-sabotaging, because it is a sign of settling. That would be the number one thing to identify
Wow.
with if you're self-sabotaging.
That is so profound. You're helping so many people with that. Because I can hear some people probably saying, I'm an introvert. I'm just humble. I wouldn't do that. But you explain that so well to let them know we're not talking about losing your humility or you not being an introvert. We're talking about, have you lost your voice? You know, are you contributing to the organization that you're working in or the work that you're doing with the team or in the relationship? Because it takes two people to be in a relationship. Have you lost your individuality in that relationship? So that is
Yeah.
key. That's important.
I,
Yeah.
I, I got that's a great point. I appreciate everybody putting the ones. We need to talk about that, because the people that are
Yes.
putting ones are letting me know that they have been in rooms where they have been smarter than people and chose not to exercise that, because you you told yourself by not saying nothing that's exercising humility. And the truth of the matter is, no, you have taught yourself to not make someone else uncomfortable,
Mm.
right? That's literally what's happening in that situation. Another thing about self sabotaging is that, and I want y'all to think about this really quick. This is why you got to take the master course on November 2nd. Is absolutely free. Think about this for a
Yes.
second. Anyone that's on a job, anyone that's in a relationship, anyone that's living in a home, driving a certain vehicle, have you ever told yourself, man, I wish I can do better? I've had people, I'm gonna start with a job. People say, I'll ask people while I'm coaching, what do you desire to be? Well, I would love to be the director of my department. Okay, why aren't you the director of your department? Well, I don't. I don't. They are not. Someone else has that position. They're not hiring right there. I don't have the right credentials. I don't. I can't. They won't. That's one job. There's 60 million jobs in the world, but you've narrowed your fate down into one facility, one company, one owner, and because that position is not available and they're not hiring and you don't check 100 boxes like they required, you stop right there in that organization. Self-sabotage. I'm constantly saying, change your venue, change your demographics. If they don't love you the way you deserve to be loved, then go where you can get the love you deserve. Period.
Yeah.
You know, being in a place where you're settling because of your surrounding, you're better than that. If you're in a community, let's say you're a senior citizen, and there's nothing to do in your community that represents you because it doesn't raise to the level of your desire. So if your community doesn't offer that, you just normalize not having community. You might be 3 to 5 miles away from everything you need, but you won't go there. That's a sign of
Mhm.
self-sabotaging. So you're living a boring life as a senior citizen, right? Because you don't want to leave the home that you're in. You don't want to leave the community that you're in. But if you went down the block, they're offering everything that you need. So let's take a young person. All I ever wanted to be was this, right? Okay, did you apply? Well, they're not hiring. Okay, I guess you should give up. They're not doing that nowhere else on this planet. Why are you sabotaging who you are? You know, I tried to do this, but they required this and I don't have it. Go where it's not required or get what you need. Self-sabotaging behavior. That makes sense?
Yes. Great sense. Thank you for putting the ones in the chat. We want to acknowledge you. Thank you, Ronnie, Evelyn, Miss Evelyn, Sharon, Veronica. Thank you for putting the ones in the chat and identifying what we're talking about. And so we definitely want to give you some good nuggets so that you can identify where you are. And like Coach Rich was saying, we have the master class course coming on November the 2nd, where we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper and give you some practical steps. We're going to give you an assessment to help you to recognize where you are. And then we're going to walk with you and help you as far as what you can do as a result of that. You're talking about a lot of things here. And I know I'm just thinking, I'm analytical because I'm thinking about all the different things that people are saying, no, that's not me, or I can't. No, I don't want to do this. I know I can think of all the excuses that we have as far as, oh, that's being kind. And like you were saying, I'm being humble. There's so many different excuses, but I think self-reflection is needed. It is definitely needed for you to recognize that you're not moving forward in life and that you are slowing down and you're checking out. You're not taking the risk. You're not taking the opportunities that are presented to you. And there is the why there.
Mm-hmm.
It is the why. So those were great examples. And so is there, can we talk a little bit about the risk? I know we have a few minutes, but can we talk about the risk taking that's involved with that and the fear that happens with that? Because some people are just paralyzed by that risk of doing something different, the different examples that you've given. What would you say to someone who are just stuck at that risk taking
Um,
part?
I'm going to say something it's going to sound like an oxymoron, and you may not agree with it, but I do. This is just my point. I think people with the most fear are the most controlling people, because most people that fear change means that the sensationalism of losing control has now settled with you.
Mm,
So most people that fear taking the chance, taking the risk, it's not necessarily the fear, it's the control. See, as long as I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm good at what I do and I've perfected what I do and I don't have to do anything different, I'm in control. But if you tell me to do something different and I have no knowledge, I'm not familiar, I'm not comfortable, that means my fear is not necessarily being frightened, but the fear is the anxiety associated with not knowing.
mm,
So
yeah.
if you can get out of your way and let go of some of the control, then on the other side of that, you will find that you're no longer sabotaging yourself. And that's what this master course is going to be about, how to kind of unravel and take a deep dive into getting out of your way and not self-sabotaging. And this is why some relationships are broken. You ever meet someone and in the beginning, you have a good run for 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and then you start falling out and you start saying you change? No, it just means that somewhere along the line, you felt like you may lose control. That's a possibility. And by you giving up your control, this person you feel may gain your control. But there's a way to have humility. There's a way to maintain control of yourself and still have a dynamic life. But you, at some point, you have to trust something outside of yourself. But you use the trust and everything that you have within you to build on it, because what you have in you instinctively will lead you in the right direction. Stop turning down those good instincts. Value those good instincts. Even if they're pushing you to healthy barriers, you can get through them. Those instincts are real. They're good. They're valuable. They're part of who you are. Stop turning them down. Trust your instincts. Set healthy barriers and stop self-sabotaging.
That's good. That is great. I know we just have a few minutes here. I want to acknowledge those who are in the chat, the comments are in the chat. Sharon, thank you for what she said. She said, vision goals and your dreams with a mindset to succeed and be successful and put the negative naysayers behind. Better than done. It's better said than done. But I keep my faith and believe. Very well said. Thank you for that. And then we have everybody putting their ones in. And then we also have a comment of Ronnie. She made a comment, very well said. So we've got people who are identifying what's being said, and we thank you for putting those comments in the chat. It's a safe community here for us to share and to ask questions. If you have any questions, please, whenever you come into the show and you're watching, we will definitely acknowledge your questions, and we want you to feel that this is a place that you can ask questions and receive answers. Please, if you haven't already done so, please check out on the website the Finding Your Purpose, Know Your Purpose Bootcamp. We have coaching packages for individuals as well as a group. If you want to get together with your friends, your girlfriends, and you want to have a coaching session, we have group packages. So please go to our website, click the link there, and then you can find the different pricing. And then most importantly, if you are identifying with what we're saying about self-sabotaging, get out of your own way. We have the masterclass on November the 2nd. Please, we'll have that information posted. It's a free masterclass for you to take advantage of. We're giving you the tools. We want you to take advantage of the tools that we're presenting to you for you to have mastery mindset so you can have a better quality of life. So, Coach Rich, what do you like to end on?
With that being said, we're over on our time. Make sure you just stand by. It's going to go off for a little bit. Dr. Marcia will be coming on with her guest, so we don't want to impede on her time anymore. So with that being said, Rich Live, you know that we love you, and there's what?
Nothing you can do about it.
Until the next time. See you guys. Love you.
Bye-bye.
If you need the best entertainment in one place, music with smooth grooves, you have to tune in to MSC Network. And if you want the best place for the culture, the community, with good vibes, with good content for your soul, so tune in to the MSC Network, tune in to the MSC Network, the MSC Network, the MSC Network, tune in to the MSC Network, the MSC